lecture, actually a very nice lecture from Professor محمد المعصوم بالله. Professor محمد المعصوم بالله has already you have his profile. He has several, he's very active in academic field, mashallah. He published 26 books and 91 articles and several papers in conferences and seminars in different areas: finance, banking, insurance, and I suppose legal as well. He has 6 or 5 specialized blogs. It's available in the website drmassoombillah.blogspot.com. Our lecture today is, I consider, as a solution to support national growth, especially in the time of depression. The title, as you see in the paper, Emergence of Sovereign Sukuk towards an eco-sustainable development. I leave the floor to Professor Al-Masoom.
Thank you very much, Dr. Faisal, for giving me an opportunity to share my humble idea. And thank you very much, Professor Pierce and the team over there, and our brothers here for being in this particular session to share an idea. And most important thing that I'm going to raise some issues here, so that I will appreciate to get some feedback and sharing ideas from all of you, so that we can develop a good paper on this particular area. Now, the issue here is the sovereign sukuk. Now, as we realize that in today's world, different countries are developing their these mega projects based on debt, interest-bearing debt financing. So now, we will bring a result not that positive actually for the country and also for the nation as a whole. So that's why we see that in looking at the today's global socio-economic phenomena, it is timely that we can come up with a solution which may help us to avoid the debt, the interest-bearing financing facilities. At the same time, we will be able to have the opportunity to develop our mega projects of the country, which means that it is going to be a sustainable economic effect of the country. Now, that is why I have suggested here, in fact, the sovereign sukuk has been going on and has been implemented and appreciated for quite some time, but then we have to really value, we have to really take it as with a serious consideration that the sovereign sukuk may result in helping any country, either third world country or the first world country, to develop their projects or the mega projects without any form of interest-based debt. So now, that's my submission. Now, we have about 7 points that I'm going to, 8 points that I'm going to emphasize in my lecture. First is the modern development financing techniques and its socio-economic impact. Secondly, the Islamic, just to compare what is the scenario of Islamic project financing and its socio-economic impact. Now, as an alternative, as I mentioned in my preview, that the sovereign sukuk is an able alternative to help the government respective government to develop their mega projects without any form of debts. I mean the interest-bearing debts. Now, what is sovereign sukuk all about? Yes, I'm going to give a nutshell idea. Then next is the sovereign sukuk structure I have highlighted here. Is briefly about 7 structures can be adopted to raise the funding by the government to develop the mega projects of the country concerned. Now the next is the sovereign sukuk risk. I mean, if there is any risk, how we can minimize, we can manage, so that that particular component has to be also considered before issuance of any sovereign sukuk or sukuk. And that is what my suggestion here, the takaful may play a vital role in this particular regard. Final submission, that sovereign sukuk may be a solution to an interest-bearing, debt-free nation development. Now, modern development financing, I mean this, the development of the projects, mega projects in a country, whereby how they are raising the funding and what the resources they are getting actually, and what is the mechanism. Now, project development through debt financing with fixed interests in the modern financing, whereby the government will identify a project, any mega projects, either road, bridges, hospitals, airport, and so on. So now, after identification of the projects, government will look for the financing, either private or public arrangement. Okay. Now, the financing shall be basically, in most cases, it should be on. It has been with interest-bearing debt. Now, at the end of the day, what happened? The government developed the projects, but the government has to return back with a long-term debt liability. I mean, the government will be suffering with a long-term debts. Now, as a result, the economic consequence of the country in this particular structure of the arrangement, the government will suffer a long-term liability with debts. Secondly, the nation also will share the consequences. I mean, share the suffering of the government. Okay, in many ways, and also at the same time, the nation will diminish their right opportunities of facilities, other opportunities, the national opportunities, okay, or the basic opportunities. Now just to compare with Islamic project financing, that's what we are having now today in different countries. Islamic project financing is basically on sharing techniques. I mean, the sharing risk and also sharing this loss or profit, whatever it is, or on standard service charge basis. There are 2 mechanisms that are being adopted in project financing under Islamic principles today. So one is either on sharing technique, the sharing of profit, or on standard service charge basis. Now the structure. Islamic project financing, that's just the nutshell scenario actually, that's what happened actually. And my objective here to highlight these are the scenarios and why we should go for the sovereign sukuk arrangement. And what are the niche in this particular model, I mean the sovereign sukuk. The government will identify the projects, whereby the same as the look for the financial and the public or private arrangement. Then the financing is going to be based on the sharing technique or based on the service charge. Now, the return is the proceeds sharings, I mean the income sharing, either is on securitization basis or non-securitization basis. Securitization basis like Mokarada or the Qirat, and the non-securitization basis is Murabaha, Mudaraba, etc. So now, and if it is a debt financing, then it's going to be a return with service charge, agreed service charge plus the principal at sukuk. Now, what is the socio-economic impact? The government's liability is limited by sharing technique, either risk sharing or the income sharing, or the loss sharing, And then the nation shares the limited liability. I mean, as compared to the conventional project financing mechanism. Now, The sovereign sukuk is an alternative. This is just a submission. I'm going to make a final submission at the end of my lecture. The sovereign sukuk is an alternative model for the national development with a sustainable eco-reserves. So now, sovereign sukuk is an alternative technique which gives an opportunity for any government to obtain required funding aiming at developing major projects. Upon understanding with the investors or the funders to make the investment return along with the principle based on an income sharing mechanism if it is based on the musharaka or mufarada, etc. But we have also another mechanism or the model that's based on ijara, istisna, and so on. Salam, that I'll discuss later on. This is just an example, nutshell example, in which the issue of a long-term liability with interest-bearing debt shall never be arisen in this particular arrangement. Okay, that's what we have experienced in the conventional project financing. Thus, in view of a sustainable development of a country, the move of sovereign sukuk is a timely solution against an interest-bearing long-term debt-based project financing technique. Now, sovereign sukuk at nutshell. Sovereign sukuk is a fixed-term financial instrument backed by a tangible asset. The issue of a sovereign sukuk with ijara structure, I'm giving an example of ijara structure and the leasing structure, will provide for several key elements reflecting in principle the same economic rationale applying to fundraising in respect of the issue of a conventional sovereign bond. This is an example actually. Now, in this particular sovereign sukuk, what is happening actually? Government will identify a project, okay, and will appoint a SPV or establish a SPV, special purpose vehicle, based on the principle of tawarruk, okay, or the GLC, the government link company. Okay, so now, upon appointment of that the SPV will issue the sukuk on behalf of the government, and the investor will invest the money or finance or provide the record financing for the projects, whereby the SPV will lease back, will assign the project to the government for the development, as terms of the agreement, okay? And then at the later stage, the SPV will lease back the project to the government, okay? Now the proceeds of the lease, the rental will be received by the SPV and pay back accordingly to the investors minus the cost, the maintenance cost of the project. Now at the maturity, what happened? The SPV will invite the government to buy back the projects, and the principal will be returned back to the investors. Okay, investors. In this situation, there are two models actually. Whether the SPV will return back, the government will buy back the project with the market price, market value of the projects, or at the sukuk issuer value. So now there are two mechanisms. At the sukuk issuance value, that the principal, they will be returned back to the investor, or at the market value. In both cases, the government will return back the money to the value to the investors. Now, upon settlement to the investors, because this SPV will redeem the sovereign sukuk, and that's how the sukuk is end. Now, we have the 7 structures of sovereign sukuk. Sukuk al-musharaka, partnership based. Sukuk al-muqarada, income sharing by capital securitization. And or we can say qirad. Sukuk al-murabaha, markup with deferred payment. And sukuk al-ijara, lease based sukuk. Sukuk al-salam, deferred delivery of the projects. Sukuk al-istisna, manufacturing or development. And the last but not least is the cooperative micro sukuk. Now, this structure, idea, mind mapping. Sukuk al-Musharaka structure whereby the government will identify the projects, either airport or this hospital, road, bridges, whatever. It's mega projects. Now, upon identifying the projects and determining the required funding, then appoint SPV, SPV, and the establish SPV, special purpose vehicle, and basically this SPV is a GLC, government link company. Okay. Now there will be an agreement, and the SPV will act on behalf of the government throughout. And now there is an agreement between the investor and the SPV. SPV is on behalf of the government. Agreement shall be based on the principles of Sukuk al-Musharaka, the partnership between the investor and the SPV, and on behalf of the government. Now the consequence, the return shall be income as per the agreed ratio. Whatever, at first the project is going to be handed over to the government to develop, and any income comes or the generate out of this particular project shall be shared between the investor and the government accordingly, according to terms and condition in the agreement. Now at maturity, the market value of the project as per agreed ratio, okay? This, it cannot be 100%. The project is going to be bought over by the government, and then project is the principal amount, market value of that particular project shall be determined, and if the percentage of the ratio of that market value paid by the government shall be payable to the investors according to the terms and conditions, then SPV will redeem the sovereign sukuk. Now, the second structure is the same as the government will identify the project, etc. Now, agreement is going to be on sukuk al-muqarada. Muqarada in some country you call qirab, securitization. So the profit sharing with principal securitization, whereby there is no question of profit and loss sharing, only the income sharing in this particular structure, whereby the risk is 50%. 50% means it's not the loss part is not shared by the investors. Okay. So now, in other words, the principal is securitized. So in this particular structure, whereby income has to be payable to the investor, project is going to be developed by the government, and then any income is generated in this particular project shall be returned back to the investor in accordance to the agreed ratio. Now at maturity, the principal has to be principal as securitized. The sukuk has to be returned back or paid back by the government to the investors. The SPV will then redeem the sovereign sukuk. The third one is the murabaha structure, whereby the agreement shall be same thing. The agreement shall be based on the murabaha, said with markup by deferred payment. What do you mean by that? In this particular structure, the project is going to be handed over to the government. Government will develop the projects. Now, during the during the maturity period, whatever income, whatever loss incurred in this particular project is not a question or is not an issue with the investors, because investor is already, the project has already been determined and the price has already been marked up. Okay, and the government is liable to pay to the investor, and the payment structure or the payment mechanism is by installment. Okay, installment. Now, the payment shall be continued by the government to the investors until the maturity period. Okay. Now, if in case at the maturity, if in case there is a balance outstanding, then the government is liable to pay back to the investor whatever balance is of that particular project value as per marked up arrangement. Now the SPV will redeem the sovereign sukuk in this structure. Now the next is the sukuk al-ijara, lease back to the government. In this particular structure, government will identify the projects, and then upon the SPV or the GLC, agreement is going to be between the investors or the funders and the SPV, Sukuk al-Ijara. Now, in this particular arrangement, the SPV will assign the project to the government, assign this particular to the government, and the government will develop the project, and subsequently the SPV will lease the project to the government, okay? And the agreed rental will be payable to the investors, okay? Now, at maturity, what happened? The government will buy back the project. Buy back what amount? There are two versions, two opinions. One is the market value. The other version or other opinion is at the sukuk value. I mean, at the time of issuance of the sukuk, okay? So now, that particular principal amount has to be paid back to the investor, in which situation the government become the owner of that particular project. SPV will redeem the sovereign sukuk. Now, the fifth structure is the salam structure. In this particular arrangement or the structure, the SPV will sign an agreement with the investors based on the principles of as-salam, whereby sale by deferred delivery. In this particular arrangement, the SPV will assign the project to the government will develop the projects, and now at the end of the day, the government, in this arrangement, government is not the owner of the project. The investor will be the owner of the project, okay? Now the delivery of the projects, or the possession will be later on. So now what happened in this arrangement? The return income minus cost, and any income, normally this is not applicable, but then if in case, if there is an income and if there is a term or the clause in the agreement, then income has to be returned back to the investor, because the investor is the owner of the project, okay? Minus cost, okay? At maturity, the government, the project is belong to the investor. Now, what happened in a salam structure? The government has to buy the project at the market value, okay, and return back the principal to the investor accordingly. SPV will redeem the sovereign sukuk. Okay, now sukuk al-istisna structure. I mean, in this particular structure, by manufacturing or development, the SPV will assign the project to the government again, and the government is going to develop the project. There are two mechanisms whereby the government will have the partial ownership. I mean, the land or this building. Okay, government will have the partial ownership, and then investor will have the further development ownership of the development. Okay, so now, there is another arrangement. Then the investor will buy over the initial projects, and then will ask the government to develop the project. Okay, develop the project, and in this matter, the BOT arrangement also applicable. Build, operate, and transfer. Okay, will also applicable here in this particular structure. So whereby the government will develop the projects, okay, with the finance provided by the investors, and then at the end of within this particular period of time, the maturity period, if there is any income, okay, the income has to be returned back to the investor, or according to the ratio as per the agreed in the agreement. That is not much applicable, but the most applicable here at the maturity, the investor and the government will buy over the. So government will at the maturity, government will buy back the projects. Okay, buy back the project at the market value. Okay, because this project is belong to the investor. Okay, now partly now market value, or the project will be bought over by the government at the this initial determined value. Okay, and then the agreed principal is going to be returned back to the investor, in which situation the government become the 100% ownership over the project. SPV will redeem the sovereignty. The last issue here, this particular model that In fact, 3 years ago, I have written something and providing that this the cooperative micro bond or micro sukuk structure which will enable the government, any government, third world countries, to develop their project, mega project, they could not get the financing and so on. So if they open up this this micro bond or micro sukuk, whereby they can invite everybody to participate, they can buy unit, even with minimum price, minimum at par value, okay? So this particular structure is applicable to third world countries basically, whereby the government will identify the projects and the GLC will be appointed, not basically the central bank, and will issue the support, and there will be a managing bank. Now, in this particular arrangement, normally sukuk al-musharaka al-mutanaqisa, diminishing partnership will be applicable here, is more diminishing partnership. Now the contributors will be nationwide, okay? Anybody can be the contributor with the minimum at par value, okay? Now the proceeds will be, now the arrangement here is not, is a different actually here. The ownership of the contributors will be diminished within the policy period, the maturity period, whereby proceeds shall be payable in accordance with the ratio of the unit to the contributors till the maturity, okay? And there are some portion will go to the government treasury, some portion go to the maintenance, etc., etc. Now, what happened at the end of the day? Government does not need to buy over the project, okay? Buy over the project is automatically diminish enrich the ownership of the government in this particular arrangement and diminish the ownership of the contributors within the policy period or the maturity period. Now, sovereign sukuk risk. Now, in a sovereign sukuk arrangement, the underlying project is recommended to be insured with a takaful company because this is an Islamic financing technique. So, takaful Islamic insurance and the project takaful coverage. If there is, they could have syndicate, you know, and or the co-insurance arrangement, and also for the reinsurance arrangement or re-takaful arrangement, the premium shall be on the government, and in case of a defined risk, if so run over the project, the claim shall be made by the takaful provider, re-takaful as per clauses. Now submission, final submission. Sovereign sukuk may be a solution to a debt-based national development. It is thus submitted upon what I discussed earlier, that a sovereign sukuk opposes any form of interest-bearing debt-based project financing, either public or private. Okay? It thus promotes and duly facilitates an interest-free financing to mega development opportunity. By looking at the global socio-economic phenomena today, adopting sovereign sukuk may create a vibration of the national economy besides having an opportunity to undertake a result-oriented mega development of the country with no long-term liability by interest-bearing debt. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you for this. Thank you, Professor Muhammad Masoom, for this interesting presentation. I think we can start with you, Professor Beer, in Paris, for comments and questions.
Yes, first I would like to thank Professor Mohammed Masoom Bila for his excellent talk and presentation. And also, I must insist, I'm very glad that the quality of the video link is excellent. The image is great and the sound is great, and in fact we never heard you so well. So I thank very much Kalim and Sophie for the excellent technical work, and the IT team too. We listen to you as if you were in the same room as we are, except that you have more light and you're bringing the light through video. So thanks. Then I would like to ask some simple questions before I ask my students here if they do have some other questions. First, the general payment scheme is insured by a takaful company. Is it to say that there is no need for government guarantee of the revenue of the project? That is to say that the project itself is completely autonomous from government and it doesn't need government backing. That's the first question. The second question is about price solicitation procedures, because, for instance, in the case of Salam Sukuk, Professor Mohamed Masoumbila said that the project has to be bought back at market value, and I was wondering what kind of price solicitation procedures are compatible with Islamic finance. Does it mean that the price can be agreed, or is it necessary to go to a public auction or to apply an hedonic approach, or whatever procedure that can guarantee that the price is strictly a market price and not just a conventional price? Then I would like to ask about case studies, because while we were preparing for the presentation, I've seen some term sheets from banks, so I was wondering whether there were some case studies in order to document the presentation. Because my fear here is that when we're thinking of development projects, we're thinking mostly about producing either public goods or infrastructure projects. And in the case of public goods, by definition, they are non-excludable, so it's very difficult to get any money from them in order to pay back, the capital. Or even from the infrastructure project. The problem with infrastructure project is that, generally speaking, there are more externality than direct benefits from infrastructure projects. Hence, it's still difficult to get some payments. So I was wondering whether, although the general scheme is excellent, because in fact the debt and the return is isolated from the states, and there is no burdening of the state by debt. The problem might be that most development projects are not eligible to this kind of financing because of their nature, either as public goods or as infrastructure projects with more external profit than purely taxable or dependable profit. Maybe we can take some other questions as a whole, and then you'll answer the full list. Okay?
Yes.
Sans vous demander quel est pour les investisseurs, et le retour sur l'injonction, il n'y a pas vraiment de retour sur l'injonction, il y a un retour. Et les banques, comment elles peuvent faire du profit s'il n'y a pas de. C'est tout à cause de zéro.
The French-speaking audience is anxious about the possibility for either the investor or the bank to make some profit out of the project.
Mais si c'est contre la charia de base.
No. Making profit is not against Sharia.
Ok.
C'est en défend des affaires que la banque a aussi des images.
Oui, mais justement, l'idée, c'est que c'est des schémas où il n'y a pas d'intérêt. On en parlera après. C'est des schémas de rémunération où il n'y a pas d'intérêt. Et il y a des notes de paiement qui ont une valeur de l'intérêt, qui ne sont pas des. Well, there are some other questions in French, but if you agree, I will answer afterward by myself.
Okay.
Any other question there? That's all.
Okay, we have.
That's all from the French side. Thank you.
Right. We have Dr. Maha from female section. I'm sorry for the late connection. If you have any question, Dr. Maha. Okay. We'll move to question from our institute now.
Thank you for your presentation, Dr. Masoom. My only question is with regard to Sukuk al-Murabaha. Sukuk al-Murabaha, Murabaha as it is, as per what I understand, is you should possess the thing. And when you're talking of the long-term projects, I don't know how you are putting the Sukuk within. And even if it is possible, it is also for short-term. Malaysia uses it fairly, but that's for short term. I don't know how they're putting it in long-term projects. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Masoom. My question is about the مقارنة sukuk. Isn't مقارنة same like قراض, another name for مضاربة? And if it is so, it is profit and loss sharing system. You said it's only profit sharing, there is no loss here. Can you shed some more light on this, please?
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. All these structures, except the last one, which Professor Masoom Billah, this cooperative model, all have been around in the market since late 90s, as he has already mentioned. And there are serious Sharia compliance issues which have been discussed in the literature with respect to all of them. Basically, there are of course, Professor Masoom Billah must be aware of them, and we, in the Journal of King Abdulaziz University, we ran a discussion forum 2 issues ago on the issue of sukuk, and a number of very useful contributions were made, and this may be for the French people information that a lot of good contributions are available in our issue number 28-2 as a discussion under the discussion forum. Basically there are 3 major problems. One problem is with the buyback arrangement, that at the end the government has to buy back. And this Sharia scholars think it is aina, and therefore not Sharia compliant. Second issue is with the creation of SPV, and this was also discussed in the discussion forum. What is the role of the SPV? SPV is a wakil, is a for agent for the French people. It's an agent. An agent does not take any responsibility. It is only acting on behalf of the principal. So if the principal is government, the SPV is only facilitator. This issue arises that whatever SPV does is deemed to have been done by the government. This is what the wakala, and therefore anything which non-Sharia compliance, the settlement by SPV is settlement by the government. And in that case, whether there are any risks. This is relating to also the point raised by Professor Pierre. If it is on at the end, it's on the market rate, which has to be. Otherwise, if it is on the scoop value, the loss has to be. In one of the statements, the Professor Masoom Billah said that the investors will not share any loss. All these structures, they try to take off the risk off the shoulders of the investors. That's the second problem. If it is on the market rate, then could be profit or could be loss, and there has to be, as Professor Pierre said, has to have a mechanism to determine that market price. This is the second major issue with all scoops. And the third major issue is with respect to the takaful, which he says that any risk, basically all these structures they try to minimize the risk and shift it. The takaful model itself has been questioned whether this mega projects which the government is running, is there any takaful company which can give insurance to these projects, they ultimately have to re-thakaful, so to say, in the London market. And that re-thakaful is based on interest. Even though even the first thakaful, I have my personal reservations with the thakaful model itself, but even if we accept it, these such mega projects have to be reinsured in the London market, and that is on the basis of interest. These are the three major issues which have been discussed in the literature, and I don't see any solution provided to these problems, how to solve these problems in the structures, various structures. Thank you very much.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I can, you see, for this public project, which is, we need the government to issue sukuk to finance it. We can identify two kind of projects. Either one who can generate enough value added to justify a marketable return on that. In that case, we do not need to issue any sukuk, have the private sector, through the market mechanism, execute it, and the government will put its restriction through BOT, where they can maintain the benefit of all the society, and it is win-win game. So we can exclude that kind of project from this sukuk structure. The second one, which is the value added, do not justify marketable return on this because there is some externality which can benefit society. In that case, the government step in. Since the reward from that project is not sufficient to learn or to attract the private sector to invest in that, the government must sit up here and try to execute that. Then they will go through debt base. And if you go to that, we can use all the mimic which we can use through Salam or whatever we have sale-based contract to assure the principal and to assure minimum return on that investment. And we can use all the mean and way to execute this objective. The second thing about the marketable value for this, if this security can be treated in the market? If it is, then they have to go through the opportunity cost, quote unquote, the interest, the market interest. So to have this kind of product acceptable by the market, you have to set up some kind of return to be attractive enough and to compete with interest-based instrument in the market. So to end up, all this instrument or sukuk must boil out to conventional bonds with all the attractive and the incentive there, with some spice, Islamic spice on that. And we can consider it Islamic sukuk. Thank you.
Thank you very much for all of your nice questions and thoughtful questions and thoughtful ideas. In fact, your concern, your comments, your suggestions and ideas are really valuable to my paper to be completed, inshallah. Now, the question here, just I try to resolve one by one. Professor Pierce, he raised so far 4 questions. Number 1 is the government guarantee. I mean, I haven't touched on this particular area. That the project risk, I have touched on the project risk, how it can be minimized, and that's why the insurance will be coming and so on. But as regard to the payment guarantee, I mean, how we can assure the the guarantee for the investors. What is the assurance for the investors if in case there is a default? Okay. So in this situation, though I did not highlight, normally a clause provide. Okay, the sukuk clause provide the guarantee for the investors. Okay, and as far as I remember, in Malaysia, the Securities Commission, which provides the investors' confidence clause. Okay, so we have the clause actually, and out of this, I would like to also suggest that probably it is not here yet. The project, underlying project shall be a collateral if in case there is a default or acts of God run over the subject matter, any catastrophe, whatever it is. In this particular situation, the project shall be auctioned or whatever it is, and to raise the fund to pay back to the investor. In this situation, the liabilities shall be limited. I mean, by collateralization, the government may limit its liability. Okay, that's just my concern, my suggestion, sharing actually in this matter. Now, next issue that Professor Pierce mentioned here, raised, is a market value. Now, the market value here is definitely it cannot be a unilateral basis. Okay, it has to be a standard based on the standard policy or criteria. Okay, so it's not necessarily that the government will just value the project and that is final. It shall not be like that. There should be a professional body, and the professional body, based on the market, standard market value or the criteria, they will apply the criteria of the policy and they will value the market. That's called assessment of the project, and that can be applicable here actually. And I do not have any information about it, but this is just my humble sharing actually. Probably an assessment body will be appointed, an independent body. An independent body will determine or the price or the value the project according to the market standard or scenario, and that is final. And it shall not be influenced by either government or the investors in this particular valuation. Now the case studies, I'm so sorry, when I was talking, I forgot actually to the cases that I have taken. I think I will request Dr. Kalim to email to our respected audience these two cases. One is from
Presentation also. The presentation also.
Presentation, okay. Dr. Kalim will send to everybody, inshallah. One is the Luxembourg sovereign sukuk. That's very interesting, based on the ijara. So this case study is very good. Other one is the.
They are all based in Malaysia or in?
No, it's Luxembourg.
Luxembourg. Okay.
And then the other one is the HSBC Amana. They issue the sukuk actually, but this issue, the issuer is the government of Indonesia on the national development project. So that is everything is here, the price and so on. I hope that Dr. Kalim will email to everybody both cases. And okay. Next issue here, the profit for the bank. Yes, profit or income. The issuer bank, the SPV or there's a GLC, whosoever. Okay, what is their income actually? Their remuneration shall be agreed before the sukuk is issued. Okay, and this payment shall be payable by the government, because of the GLC or the bank or the SPV is appointed by the government. However, in an exceptional case, exceptional circumstances, whereby if there is a term which provides that both parties and the investor and also the government shall share the remuneration for the SPV or the GLC or the providing bank or the issuer bank. Right? Now, Dr. Maha.
So it's a commission.
A
It's a
commission.
commission either paid by the government or by both,
or by both. It's depend on the agreement. But
it's
in
not a percentage of any return.
there is no any specific here, but it depends on the express term by the government actually. But if it is a clause which provides that both parties will share, also will be provided by the express term in the clause actually in the contract. Now, Dr. Maha, there is no question. Now, Dr. Kalim has raised an issue, sukuk al-murabaha, that is of course usually is a short-term arrangement. So now, though I did not highlight here, is a short-term project actually, short-term project. Normally it's not a long-term one actually. So the in this particular arrangement, the markup, of course markup is not an issue, but it's a short-term and or the long-term, right?
Conditions, you should own the thing before you sell it.
Okay.
That's another part of the process.
Now, in this structure, I do not have the document with me or any case with me, but based on the article, the literature reading, just I share my idea actually. But if I can get any other confirmed case study or the case, then I will share later on. So in this situation, the SPV will purchase the project. Sorry, the investor will purchase the project. Okay, in a document, purchase the project.
Before its completion.
Before completion, no, it's initial project, the land or whatever. So land is, for example, an airport is going to be established. So now, investor is going to, for example, purchase this, the finance the project. So investor will buy, in paper actually, buy the project. Okay, so investor become the owner of the project. Now, investor will sell back the project. Okay, sell back the project to the government. Okay, with a markup. Okay, so in this situation, of course, just to justify that actually it has to be COPS. Okay, the COPS is ownership of possession is very important for any form of sale and purchase transaction. Okay, so now I believe even though it's not physical, but in paper I think they will have this kind of arrangement that the investor will have the ownership and then they will mark up and then it will be sold back to the government, and that is how the arrangement and the payback, the payable is by installment, including the principal and also the markup within the policy period or within the policy period.
What you're proposing becomes Kusala.
No, it's Morava. No, that's a delivery issue. Delivery is different. Here is the payment issue. Payment is the markup. The concern is the markup. Markup means the principal amount, the purchase price plus markup is payable by the government to the investor within the policy maturity period. Okay, by installment. Now, next issue here is the Dr. Shashi has raised Muqarada. I agree with you actually. There is a confusion actually. Muqarada, Qirat. Okay, and some schools of Islamic jurisprudence which consider Muqarada is a Mudaraba. Some schools of Islamic jurisprudence which consider that Qirat is Muqarada is the mutual. So the Qirat is different from the Mudaraba because though it looks like profit and loss sharing, profit sharing, but or equity financing mechanism, but Islamic schools of Shafi schools of Islamic jurisprudence, the Shafi Madhab, which provides that actually Qirat, the Qirat, doctrine of Qirat is used for the securitization. Okay, securitization. In other words, the capital or the principal is going to be securitized. Let's say A is investing, the government here, the investor is investing money, let's say 2 million for example. This 2 million has to be securitized under the Qirat or the Muqarada arrangement. Securitized, it cannot be touched. Touch means cannot be deficited. Okay. Now at the end of the day, if there is a profit will be shared without touching the principal. So that the government will be returned back to the investor principal is securitized already, principal plus the income. Okay. Now the issue here different between the what do you call this Mudaraba and Qirat according to Shafi schools of Islamic jurisprudence. In Mudaraba, whereby profit and loss will be shared and the risk is shared. Okay, profit and loss shared by both parties. And in Qirat, the profit is shared. Profit is shared, but not the capital. Capital has to be untouched, and that's the securitized.
In both cases, capital is, in all schools of thought, capital has to be guaranteed, but the loss has to be shared, not only profit, the loss has to be shared.
You cannot.
Capital cannot.
That's why I say that what will return is the capital minus the loss. So it is not even if the government guarantees it, to begin, and a loss occurs, that will be deducted from the principal. So it is not a sovereign guarantee for the principal.
But in other cases, whereby the capital cannot be granted.
This is what I'm saying, that if there is a
But
loss.
in Qirab, only this exception, whereby capital is guaranteed.
In Quran?
In Qirab.
Can you please provide us with the source?
It makes
The source for this, because I think there is here a bit of confusion. Qirab and Mudaraba,
Yes, I tell you.
it is, the language of Hijaz and Iraq, and so we don't like to get our friends there confused.
Now,
But just the source of this information and which school of Islamic jurisprudence, who make a difference between the
Once
two.
you guarantee the
language difference on
it becomes
معلش خلينا بس عشان
Yes.
now, probably I'll try to find. So
Yes.
this is what in
Because
but
it
it's
is
not other countries.
No, it is. I
It's in
think
Malaysia.
our Dr. Saad, he just mentioned, he made a good remark. It is just in terms of linguistic.
That's right.
Some of they say like salam and salaf.
Yes.
Okay, it is the same, but the procedures will remain the same. I mean, the features and the all regulations, rules. Of course, they are small and detailed.
Especially in Shafi'i or something.
Yes, yes.
Only Shafi schools of Islamic. I'll try to find
Yes, that's the source that
If there
provided.
is
That's
an
it.
exception, a
Exception.
tax
Yes,
has to be
taxes
given.
and
I
thank you.
will. I'm sorry. I will try to get the information and
Yes.
I will pass it to Dr.
Yeah,
Khalid.
yes,
This
that's
is only in Malaysia. They are actually emphasizing on
Okay.
Islamic Shafi schools of Islamic
Yes, I
jurisprudence
know.
only.
There is no-
But not other schools actually.
Yes, we learn, inshallah.
It is a modern Malaysian Shafis.
And then
Neo
Professor
Shafi,
Diaz and our friends there, just to inform you that we have
Neo
4
Shafi.
schools of Islamic jurisprudence.
He
So,
knew
Then
yes. And then all 3 schools, they do not recognize the qira'at in that sense that it's separate from the mudaraba. But then only Shafi schools of Islamic jurisprudence in Malaysia, we apply that particular issue. And I'll try to forward the
very
information.
interesting, very interesting.
Now, Professor Munawar, he has raised a few very interesting questions. Buyback, of course, Bayalina is, it was once in Malaysia very, this applied and, this all Islamic accepted bill and so on. But for information, though I used to be also, I used to support also this particular thing at the initial stage. Later on, I also opposed when I saw the clear hadith, then we really rejected. But the problem is in Malaysia, they have already initiated with something like Bade Taman Ajel, etc., etc. So they could not simply stop. From the commercial point of view, cannot stop immediately. They know of it, but it's diminishing slowly. So now, in this particular regard, Prof. Munawar's concern, buyback is not that in that sense, Bayalena sense actually. Here, in the same agreement, whereby this buyback is not going to be mentioned actually, there is no clause actually, but it's a custom actually, whereby at the end of the day, of course, investor will not take over the project. Project has been developed by the government, is the public project, okay? So now, based on the custom actually, government will just offer this particular price, okay? And just buy over them, yeah. But
The Sharia condition is al-maruf kal-mashruf. Even if it is a custom, it is treated equally at par with law. So any custom which is against Sharia is just like against a nas. So
I agree with you, Prof. I agree with you. Let me, I analyze this particular issue. I appreciate it. And then, second issue that Prof. Iqbal mentioned, SPB. SPB, ZLC will take any risk or not. If there is any default, it's a very interesting question actually. If there is a default in settling the due to the investors, by whatever case, government become bankrupt and whatever situation, and then the SPV maybe temporarily, for example, is just an agency. Then what will happen to the investor? How to secure, how to protect the investors' interest? So now in this situation, it's not an insurance issue actually. There are two securities can be proposed here. Number one is the project insurance, which will provide the assurance for the investors, whereby the project is collateral. Okay. So now at the end of the day, at least the investors are protected, even though with the limited liability of the government. Second issue here, the government should provide a side agreement that's called assurance. Okay, government guarantee. Okay. Apart from the project collateral, government will provide the guarantee that actually if in case there is a default by the SPV, okay, SPV, then the government will take over on the basis of the vicarious liability. Okay, vicarious liability, even though the contract is signed by the SPV or the GLC with the investor, the privity of contract is between the SPV and the investor. Now, legally speaking, the government is behind the curtain, is liable on the basis of vicarious liability. There is a principles in law, vicarious liability. So in this situation, I could suggest that government cannot escape the liability. Government has to be 100% liable to satisfy or to protect the interest or the due of the investors, even though SPVs no longer exist, whatever it is. Now the takaful here, as Prof. Iqbal mentioned about the takaful, I agree. Of course, takaful does not have that capacity to provide the this coverage for the mega projects. It's impossible. I agree with Prof. Iqbal. But then, what happened here? There is a syndicate. Syndicate means a cooperative, the co-insurance. The several insurance companies will come forward and will provide the coverage. And further, we have the reinsurance. In 1993, Tansiri Ahmad Ibrahim, who was the so-called like founder of Islamic law and everything in Malaysia, he mentioned, actually I questioned this particular issue, that actually Islamic insurance companies are based on the Sharia principles. If there is a mega loss, for example, and the coverage is coming from the reinsurance company, the lawyers, etc. Okay? Now, lawyers is not based on the Sharia principles. How it is possible? Then he mentioned that actually in Islamic law there is a principles of graduality. Graduality means Islam cannot be implemented within 24 hours. It is with a gradual effect. And therefore, if we do not have, on the basis of necessity, that's what he mentioned actually. I just share with you, though it's not my idea. So now we can just apply for the temporary effect with the understanding that actually Islamic arrangement is growing, or they are doing something better, okay, to achieve this particular target, but temporarily they can adopt, or they can take the help from the conventional reinsurance or the insurance, co-insurance arrangement.
How this temporary, how long it takes?
I don't know.
This is fatwa, Dr. Masoom.
It's not my fatwa, but I just relate my idea with you.
الضرورات تبيح
الضرورة تبيح المحظورات, if we can apply it.
Okay.
I think it will be also interesting if you could.
Please switch off.
It will also be interesting for us to know that you said that there is a syndication at the medium level and then reinsurance. If you could also find a case study even in Malaysian,
yes,
not Islamic, Malaysian context, it would be interesting to know. Because the Malaysians are doing many things which are not there in the Shafi school, but they are saying it is there in the Shafi school.
New Shafi school.
So, but it will be interesting to know, at least we have the list of so-called Shafi fatwa which are being implemented in Malaysia.
Thank you very much, Prof. I will do that. I will try to look
Any
for
other
that.
question from France?
Yeah. Any other question?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Yes, please. In fact, I'm a bit lost, I must confess. And I remember that Professor Iqbal began his speech by saying that all these solutions have been around the market for some time, and there has been a review article in the journal of King Abdulaziz University Islamic Economics, but I didn't get neither the volume nor the issue. So I would be happy if we can start from one reference, which is certain, and as we will probably publish Professor Massoum Billa's contribution, I would like the contribution to appear as differential contribution to the original paper Professor Iqbal mentioned. Does it seem okay or fair to you?
Thank you, Pierre. It is issue 28, number 1, but I will send you the exact reference to your email, and there is not one contribution, there are 5 or 6 contributions on the same subject. It's a discussion forum on Sukuk. I will send it to you by email, the link, all of it. I just have to send you the link. It's already on our website. The journal is on our website. I'll send you the link.
Yes, please, but on the website there's only there are only volumes 1 to 26. Hence, I cannot find volume 28 so far.
No, all volumes are there on the website up to 29/2, which is July 2016, and the October 2016, which is in Arabic, but there are English abstracts there for each. That has been uploaded today. It was uploaded yesterday, so all issues up to the website is up to date until October 2016. All issues are on the website.
Thank you. We have other questions from the floor, please.
Can you hear?
Yes, please.
Yes. So my question is about the current economic situation. So we notice that there are low interest rates and maybe some negative interest rates currently. So yeah, the banks money to central banks for negative interest. So I'm wondering, in some years, maybe banks would prefer to give money to for development for big countries, and it will be for 0% interest. So what would be the position of Sukuk? Will they be best for the investors than the conventional banks that will maybe give money for 0 interest? So, what's the position?
Yes, go on.
Well,
No, I think that's it.
this is not what they do at the moment, because the interest rate is 0 for the banks themselves, but then they do lend to banks at interest so far.
Can you please repeat the question, please? Make it more clear.
Okay, so I think the question was about the differential, the specific interest of the Sukuk in a time where the interest rate is so low that you can get a conventional loan at almost 0, or maybe 0 in the coming month.
Negative, even. Okay.
The situation actually, this how the question actually?
The question is,
Well, if we want some competitive product, we should be compete with a 0 or negative interest rate. The point, the return on this Sukuk must be positive, because the interest, when it becomes 0 or negative, when we have almost 0 risk. But since this project carry a risk, they must have some positive to compensate for that risk. So we should be as competitive as a conventional. Thank you.
Dr. Masoom, can I?
Just elaborate on this point. I think here we have to distinguish between what is the policy and the actual. The policy of the central banks in many advanced countries, they went for the negative interest rate. But what are the people and projects are charged is different. So we have to make, I think, here a distinction between the two. The other thing, and there are many now, articles and many documents questioning the effectiveness, of course, of this, but this is beyond, I think, what we are talking about here in Sukuk. But still, if you do allow me, Prof, just to share that it is important to look into how the Sukuk had developed, especially looking into the first experiment of the Bahrain, government of Bahrain in 2001. And this raises the question when we talk about the ownership. Is it a real ownership that the investors will really own public entity like an airport? Or is it just we are window dressing and then we are talking about pure financing and the assets we might say through SPV and any other arrangement, and it is purely a documentation process, nothing on the actual, when we talk about that they do really, do you see that, because it is a sovereign, okay, entity like airport, like some other strategic plans in the country, do the governments really surrender in case of default, in case of anything? So I think this will raise many questions and challenges for us in Islamic finance. Can we come up with a model that is applicable, that is, leaving apart the shortcomings of what is going on in the market, as the Taqi Uthmani said, the 85% whatever percentage that is really non-Islamic, and it is really compatible with the existing laws and regulations of the countries. So I think this is really a challenge. And also, of course, we need to, because you are talking about the sustainability, we are looking about the economic impact, and do such sukuk or such instruments contributed significantly to the socio-economic of the existing the people, like in poverty or in increasing the project itself. So we need also actual data about the contribution of these instruments. Thank you very much anyway.
Pierre, again, with respect to the zero interest or negative rate of interest, what the government can do is only to fix the discount rate for the discount window. As far as the market rate of interest is concerned, it depends on the players in the money market. And in the money market, the mortgages, the credit card, and many other sectors, it has never been zero or negative in the sense, in the nominal sense. In the real sense, if you say the rate of interest minus the rate of inflation, it has been negative for a very long periods of time. So as far as the nominal rate of interest is concerned, the fixing of a low or a discount rate, as has been mentioned by Dr. Ahmad, is being criticized in the Western literature, that it is not something which will affect the realities on the ground, because in the market, the rate of interest will be determined by the forces of demand and supply. It's not a policy variable.
Okay, thank you. I do agree. And by the way, now I finally found the web page for the 28th volume of the Journal of King Abdulaziz University Islamic Economics. So it's okay.
That's good. Great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. But I think now we're ready to carry on the discussion in French, because there is much discussion here about also the paper at hand. Do you have some questions?
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Massoum, for this interesting presentation and warm presentation, actually. Thank you, Professor Pierre, and all attendants in Paris. And thank you for our colleagues in Jeddah and from IDB and Al University. I trust that Dr. Karim will distribute the presentation and cases and references all from Professor Massoum. Looking forward to see you again, inshallah, in the next seminar.